Hi, I'm Tanya, and this is From Burnout to Balance. This is part 3 of the Family Ecosystem Approach series. Today, I want to talk about the stage that comes after the crash, the one that's supposed to look like relief, and so often doesn't feel like that at all. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you. The crash has passed. You can feel it in small ways. Maybe your child isn't fighting school attendance anymore because they're not going. And after months of trying to force that, there's a strange relief in the fighting simply stopping. The crisis may have settled a bit. Your house may feel quieter. Some days may almost feel ordinary, right in the middle of a life that looks nothing like it used to. And yet, your body hasn't gotten the memo. You are still braced in the doorway before you open it, still waiting for the phone to ring, still listening for the tone in a voice from 3 rooms away. I call this anticipatory waiting mode, a nervous system that stays on alert even when nothing is currently wrong, because for so long, something almost always was. This is stage 2 of the family ecosystem approach, stabilising safety. The crash has passed, but your nervous system hasn't quite caught up yet. Things look more predictable from the outside, but you don't quite know if you can trust it yet. And this is exactly the stage where the 3 a.m. thoughts tend to arrive. And this might sound familiar. It's 3 a.m. again and the thoughts arrive, like they always do. Did I drop the ball? Did I miss it? Could I have caught it sooner? Your mind runs the whole story again and again, every choice, every moment, looking for what you could have done differently. And here's what I wish someone had told me back then. You parented from the information you had. The professionals around you got it wrong too, at least some of the time. The guilt that you are carrying was never yours to hold alone. And the 3 a.m. thoughts aren't truths. They're just a tired nervous system doing what nervous systems do in the dark. And you're allowed to put them down, even if it's just until the morning. If you know exactly what I'm describing, I want you to know something before we go any further. There's nothing wrong with you. This is what stabilizing safety looks like from the inside. But we don't really talk about it because from the outside, this stage is supposed to look like relief. And here's something I didn't expect. I thought that the guilt would ease once the crash had, but instead it got louder. Here's how I make sense of it for myself, and you might relate. In the crash, there's no room for reflection. You're too busy surviving to interrogate every thought, every decision that you made along the way. But once the crisis has eased a bit, there's a little more room in the house, and that quiet leaves room for something else to move in. The replaying, the what-ifs, the 3 a.m. audit on every choice, looking for the one moment that you could have done differently. And if you recognize this in yourself, this is not a character flaw and it's not evidence that you failed anyone. This is a concept from Steve Porges' polyvagal theory called neuroception. Your nervous system threat detection system, and it doesn't clock off just because the day is over. If your body spent months or years scanning for the next crisis, it doesn't immediately learn that it's safe to stop. Darkness often removes the usual daytime distractions and cues of safety. So at 3 a.m., with less coming in from the outside, your nervous system often defaults to the oldest, most familiar job it knows. Find the danger, find what you missed, find the things that you could have prevented. And these thoughts often feel like insight. They arrive dressed as clarity. As if this time in the dark, you are finally able to see the thing you missed, but they're not insight. They're a tired nervous system running the most well-worn pattern because insight isn't immunity. You can know intellectually that you did the best that you could with what you had, and your body can still run the audit anyway. Knowing doesn't override feeling, and that gap isn't your fault either. I know that the next part can sound like parents just trying to say something to let themselves off the hook, but I'm going to say it anyway, because even as a familiar phrase, it happens to be true. And I know that I've already said this in this episode, but I want to repeat it here. You parented with the information you had at the time. It's easy to look back at our younger selves and judge them for not knowing. But you, like most parents of a child in burnout, have learned an enormous amount since the first crash. You had to. And your younger self simply didn't have the information that you're carrying now after months or years of reading, researching, and learning your child's nervous system in forensic detail. And this part bears repeating as well. The professionals around you likely got it wrong too, at least some of the time. The teachers who suggested a firmer hand, the reports that used words like manipulative or attention-seeking, the well-meaning advice that told you to hold the line when your child's nervous system was already flooded. You were not the only adult in the room working with incomplete information. You are simply the one who never got to clock off. The guilt you're carrying was never yours to carry alone. It was distributed guilt from an entire system that did not yet understand what your family was living through. And somehow it landed all on you. At 3 a.m. by yourself. Now, none of this erases responsibility. Repair still matters, and so does showing up for your child's recovery in the best way you can. But parenting is one of the only jobs we learn entirely on the job. The skills you need now were never going to arrive any other way than getting it wrong sometimes and learning from what they taught you. I wish there was a gentler way to grow them, but I haven't found one yet. There's a phrase I keep coming back to in this stage of the work. Safety doesn't always look like progress. From the outside, stabilizing safety often looks like nothing is happening. Your child may be in bed all day, on the same device, eating the same 3 foods, watching the same low-demand day on repeat. It can look like, to people outside of your family, like stagnation. But it's not stagnation. It's the collapse before the steadiness. A nervous system, yours and your child's, cannot leap from crisis straight to thriving. It has to pass through something quieter first, something that looks like very little before it can build towards something more. And that quiet, repetitive, undemanding stretch is not the absence of healing. It's the ground that healing is built on. Think about what happens after surgery. Nobody expects a body to leap from the operating table straight back to full activity. We expect rest, low demand days, more sleep than usual, and we don't call it laziness. We call it recovery. The same thing, baby goes through a growth spurt and sleeps more, not less, and nobody worries that this means that something has gone wrong. The deep internal work that us and our children are doing, even though it's far less visible, processing what your family has lived through, making room for emotions that had to be shelved during the crash, slowly regrowing connection that frayed under all that strain. That's genuine labor, and it draws on real capacity, the same way physical healing does. We don't tend to extend it the same unquestioned rest, though. This is also coincidentally the exact stage where the guilt tends to peak, because a quiet house gives your mind room to look backwards instead of forwards. And if you're in this right now, I want you to know that this phase is not a sign that recovery has stalled. It's the terrain. When your nervous system is already working this hard, adding a whole new routine to your night is just another demand. So I want to just give you a few small ways to help your body feel a little less alone in the dark. Number 1, You might name it out loud, even quietly. This is my nervous system in protection mode, not the truth arriving. Naming their pattern takes some of its power away because you're no longer inside the story. You're watching it. You might remind your body it's allowed to stop, even before it believes you. You may simply say to yourself, I'm allowed to put this down until the morning. Even if it doesn't feel true, permission is often the first repair, long before belief catches up. You might keep one hand somewhere on your body, your chest, your arm, anywhere that feels supportive. This isn't a fix. It's just a small signal to your nervous system that someone's here, even if that someone is only you. You can let the thought be there without following it all the way down. You don't have to solve that 3 a.m. audit or win the argument with it. You are simply allowed to notice it, to notice that it happened, and let the morning decide if anything deserves your attention. And finally, you might find one small signal of selfhood rather than reaching for self-care. Something that asks nothing of you and doesn't need any work. Something like standing in the sunlight for 30 seconds, a hand on your chest with one intentional breath, one song, one stretch through your shoulders. These aren't habits to build. They're just small reminders to your own body that you still exist underneath all of this. None of us might switch the thoughts off, and I'm not sure if that's the goal. The goal is a nervous system that over time learns that it's allowed to soften and feel safe even while the thought is still present. If you are in the stabilizing safety stage of burnout recovery right now, quieter days, a still braced body, guilt that gets loud, right when things feel easier, please hear this. There's nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it learned to do to keep your family safe. It just hasn't caught up yet with the fact that the crash has passed. And that's not a flaw. That is simply where you are in the spiral, not behind some line that doesn't exist. You came here for your child, and you're still allowed to be here at 3 a.m. needing somewhere to put this down. If this landed somewhere real for you, there's a space built exactly for this part. Not the part where you're in crisis, not the part where everything's resolved. The in-between part, where guilt gets loud, safety hasn't fully landed yet, and you don't need to be ready. You don't have to have all the 3 a.m. thoughts sorted out first. You just need somewhere you don't have to hold them alone. If you could do with a bit more support, the door to From Burnout to Balance is here, and we would love to welcome you into our community. Stabilising safety is real, and it can be one of the most disorientating parts of the whole journey, precisely because it's supposed to look like relief. But it's not the whole story. It's the second movement in something longer, something that does shift over time, even if your body hasn't quite believed it yet.